Dear grade 6 students, today we are going to solve exercises A, C, and D, pages 13 and 14 on your textbook related to our lesson Caught in the Ice. In exercise A, you have to match each word to its definition. So first we have the word expedition. The word expedition means that the journey for a special purpose. Number 1, to island. The island is the land surrounded by water. Number 3, the whalers. The whalers are the people who hunt whales. Number 4, crew. The crew is a group of people who work on a ship. Number 5, icebergs. The icebergs are massive pieces of floating ice. Number 6, civilization is the well-organized and developed society. In exercise C on page 13, you have to use words from exercise B to make complete sentences. The words are collision, which is the crash in which two or more things hit each other. Number 2, apprehension, the fear or dread, especially of a future evil. Number 3, drifted, become driven away as with water or wind. Number 4, inspected, to examined or looked at something carefully to find the problems. Number 5, provisions, the supplies of food and other things needed. Number 6, abandoned, left and never returned to or deserted. Number 7, isolated, which is separated from others. And 8, endured, which is experienced pain and suffering for a long time. And number 1, Shackleton took some tents, sledges, equipment, and the provisions on his ship, the Endurance. So the boss, Shackleton, or the captain of the ship, took the tents, the sledges, the equipment, and the provisions, which is the food and water and the things that are needed on the ship. And number 2, the trip faced lots of difficulties and the crew endured many hardships. The hardships are the hard or the difficult situations, so the crew suffered a lot of these hardships. There was no actual collision between the ship and an iceberg, yet the ship was wrecked. So there was no crash or hitting between the ship and the iceberg, but the ship was wrecked. So it became a wreck, which means the damaged ship. Number 4, the ship drifted on ice for months before it began to sink. So it was carried away by the wind and by the water for months before it began to sink. Shackleton inspected the damage and announced that the ship had to be abandoned. So Shackleton inspected or examined or looked at the damage and announced or declared or said that the ship had to be abandoned or deserted or that the crew must leave the ship. In number 6, the crew lived under tension and in apprehension or in fear, for they knew they would not survive for long. And of course, if you know that you would not survive or live for long, you will be tense, you will live or feel the tension and the apprehension, which is the feeling of fear. Number 7, they lost all means of communication and became isolated from the outer world. So, because they lost all means of communication, they cannot communicate or talk to anybody, so they became isolated and separated from others. In exercise D, you have to use each vocabulary word in a sentence. We have wreck, which is the damaged or broken ship. Number 2, brave. And number 3, battling. And number 1, wreck. A team of divers was sent down to examine the wreck. The divers are the people who dive underwater. So a team of divers was sent down to examine the wreck or to inspect or look at the wreck, which is the damaged ship. And number 2, braved means that became brave or courage uh, or courageous. Sorry. So the explorers braved the storm and the dangers of the furious sea. So, which means that the explorers, the ones who want to explore, They braved, or as if that they fought the storm and the dangers of the furious or the angry sea. And number three, battling, which means fighting. So the two leaders are battling for control of the government, or the two leaders are fighting for control for the government.